What's up everybody, and welcome back once again to the channel. And before we get into today's video, make sure to subscribe and sack that like button. We've been churning it up lately. My goal was to get to 250 subscribers by the end of the year. We're already past that, and we've done that just in the span of a couple of weeks, so that's pretty darn cool. Who knows, maybe we can get to 275 by the end of the year now. That'll be the new goal. So, without further ado, let's begin. I'm going to be doing my post-week 8 NFL Power Rankings. So, coming down in number 32, I have the Texans. The Texans, they lost to the Titans. They could not move the ball whatsoever. They could not stop the run. In my preview video for that game, I mentioned how I felt Derrick Henry was going to have a huge game, and I said there was a possibility he would run for over 200 yards, and sure enough, he did. Derrick Henry completely took over that game. Malik Willis in his NFL debut did not look terrible, but he did not look good. I think he's not quite ready to be a starter, and when they drafted him, he's viewed as a project quarterback, not a guy that you want to start this year, maybe a guy who won't even be ready next year. So the hope is that he can eventually be a starter, but he's not an immediate guy. Coming in at number 31, I have the Lions, who they technically do have the worst record in football now at 1-6. They are just not great in the fourth quarter. Coming in at number 30, I have the Jaguars, and it feels like every week the Jaguars, it comes down to their offense needs to have a game-winning drive to win the game. It's like every week they get the ball back with a minute and a half and can win it with a touchdown. But Trevor Lawrence just cannot seem to get it done, and now their season is essentially over. Coming in at number 29, I have the Raiders, who just got shut out by the Saints. Only ran one play past midfield the entire game. Yeah, wow. Coming in at number 28, I have the Panthers, who lost in heartbreaking fashion due to a controversial call. Well, not really controversial, more like a controversial rule, but he flat out took off his helmet, did DJ Moore, after a game-tying touchdown that could have given them the lead with an extra point. It's a penalty. That is a penalty, but it just seems such a weird way to dictate a game. Maybe instead of penalizing the team for that penalty, that can be a situation where a player gets fined heavily after the game, but not actually affecting the game in that sense. Coming in at number 27, I have the Steelers, who got blown out by the Eagles. Were able to keep it close for a while, but eventually the Eagles just pulled away. Kenny Pickett's having a rough rookie year. Coming in at number 26, I have the Broncos, who were able to find a way to get a win against the Jaguars. Coming in at number 25, I have the Bears, who got blown out by the Cowboys. Coming in at number 24, I have the Browns, who had an offensive explosion, which I thought they would have a good offensive game against the Bengals, but I did not think they would win. They got the win. They're 3-5. Nick Chubb is a beast. We'll see what happens with the trade deadline. I think what happened with Greedy Williams is pretty interesting, because Greedy Williams literally got benched in the game, came back, got burned by T. Higgins, and then got benched for the rest of the game. I think he's a very possible trade candidate, and there's already been reports that the teams are, fielding calls for the Browns are fielding calls from teams. Coming in at number 23, the Saints, their defense pitched a big shutout. Rumors about Kamara getting traded. I don't think that's going to happen after this performance, and this is a team that's very much alive in the NFC South division or race. Coming in at number 22, I have the Cardinals, whose defense just could not stop the Vikings as, expected. They do not have a good secondary. Vikings had a field day with them, and this is what's going to happen every time the Cardinals play a team with a good passing attack. They get torched. Coming in at number 21, I have the Colts, who lost in a defensive battle in Sam Ehlinger's debut. What I actually don't get is, why start Sam Ehlinger? Why not start Nick Foles? You brought in Nick Foles for a reason. How about you start Nick Foles, a guy who won a Super Bowl with Frank Reich as his offensive coordinator, and Frank Reich is now his head coach? I mean, I guess the logic could be Sam Ellinger's younger, so he can give the team more of a spark, and you already know what you're getting with Foles. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see Nick Foles in the coming weeks if the offense continues to struggle with Sam Ellinger. Coming in at number 20, I have the Rams. They have one of the worst offenses in football, and they have no running game. It's so one-dimensional. Cooper Kupp, Cooper Kupp, Cooper Kupp, and that's just not a winning formula for them. Coming in at number 19, I have the Falcons, who got a pretty wild win, as mentioned earlier, against the Panthers. It looked like the Falcons were about to Falcons themselves there at the end, but they wound up winning it in overtime, despite a interception thrown by quarterback Marcus Mariota in overtime. Coming in at number 18, I have the Buccaneers. You know, I still have the Buccaneers ahead of the Falcons, even though the Falcons are leading the NFC South, because who really believes that the Falcons are better than, with Marcus Mariota, are better than Tom Brady and the Bucs? And the Bucs already beat him. Coming in at number 17, I have the Packers, who got shut down offensively against the Bills. Aaron Rodgers looks washed. Coming in at number 16, I have the Commanders, who got a pretty big win against the Colts. I mean, that, drive by Heineke and company, Terry McLaurin really stepped up in that game. That was one heck of a drive. Coming in at number 15, I have the Patriots. They got the win over the Jets. It was a big win. They're back at 500. We'll see if they can keep up with some consistency. Coming in at number 14, I have the Bengals, who, I knew were overhyped and not that good, but I didn't realize it was that bad after what happened last night. To be fair, they did not have Jamar Chase, but is Jamar Chase really your whole offense? You got, Joe Burrow, who's supposed to be Mr. Clutch. You got Joe Mixon, one of the better running backs in the league, a guy who I would have considered a top 5 running back coming into the year. You got Tyler Boyd, you got T. Higgins. I don't really see what's wrong there with the offense, and it's clearly the offensive line if you watched last night's game. But I just find it funny because during the off season, they made all these moves, and I made a video back, I believe in August, about how I thought this team was not going to be good this year and was going to struggle and be up and down, and how the offensive line was still not good. A lot of people, said I was just being a Chiefs, a typical Chiefs fan, being hated, giving off hate to the Bengals because of what happened. But I mean, I said it. The moves they made with that offensive line, I did not like. Alex Chapa, about an average offensive lineman, maybe a below average at this point. L. Collins, there's a reason the Cowboys released him suddenly like that. They did not revamp the offensive line the way they needed to, and I think that people just kind of overlooked that and thought it was just going to be easy for this team to waltz back into the Super Bowl into contention, when they really just do not have a team that is a sustainable team. What happened last year with the Bengals was impressive. It was wild. It was the ultimate definition of a Cinderella team in the NFL, but they are not a good team that can, compete for Super Bowls. They're just not. And until they fix the offensive line, until they fix the defensive front, I don't think they're all that. And Joe Burrow is not Joe. He's not Joe Clutch. He's just not, because there was moments in that game where he could have made some throws and he just couldn't. Coming in at number 13, I have the Jets. Zach Wilson really sucks. It's pretty unfortunate if you think about it, because the Jets back in the 2021 draft with the number 2 overall pick could have taken Justin Fields. And if you look at Justin Fields on the Bears, he is playing really well there for the Bears, but he has no help. Meanwhile, Zach Wilson has a pretty good offensive core, and he's just stinking up the place. Can you imagine if the Jets would have taken Justin Fields over Zach Wilson? Justin Fields right now would be tearing it up with the Jets, and the Jets would be way better. And back in the 2021 draft, and I always felt that I don't understand why the Jets were locked in on Zach Wilson. I felt that Justin Fields was the better prospect, and for whatever reason, the Jets locked themselves in on a guy from BYU who really wasn't all that impressive in college if you think about it. Sure, he had, a great arm, mobile, but overall, the decision-making, getting through the reads quick, and, those key situations, he just did not have it. Coming in at number 12, I have the Chargers, who had a bye week this week. Coming in at number 11, I have the Ravens, who I know they got a big win at Tampa, but the game really wasn't that impressive at this point. That was really not that impressive of a win. The play calling offensively was weird, especially in the first half. Yeah. Coming in at number 10, I have the Giants. I see a lot of people kind of putting them down now, saying that, oh, they were a fluke, they lost to Seahawks. That was a tough game. You know, they had two fumbles by Richie James Jr. on punts. You know, it was out in Seattle. It was just a tough game, but I think this team is still a team to look out for. Coming in at number 9, I have the Seahawks. Man, Pete Carroll and Geno Smith is a match made in heaven. Who would have thought? Coming in at number 8, I have the Titans, who have now won 5 in a row after the 0-2 start. You know, I don't think there's a quarterback controversy, as I mentioned earlier. You know, I talked about Malik Willis earlier, but yeah, I don't think there's a quarterback controversy right there, right now, unless Tannehill really stinks up the place, which is possible because Ryan Tannehill isn't that good either. Coming in at number 7, I have the Dolphins, who are now back on track. You know, they're 5-3, they're healthy, their offense is lighting people up. A little bit of concern with the defense at times, but overall their defense is playing well too. Coming in at number 6, I have the 49ers, who, you know, we saw what they're capable of, and that was without Deebo Samuel. Can you imagine if they get Deebo Samuel going again? McCaffrey out of the backfield, Kittle blocking and, you know, working the middle. The team has the best offensive trio in football with George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, and Deebo Samuel. And Jimmy Garoppolo, when cooking, is an above-average quarterback. It's just he needs to, you know, stay on his game and not try to do too much. And the defense, they just need to get healthy and continue to, you know, perform the way they're supposed to, and they did against the Rams. Coming in at number 5, I have the Vikings, who got the big win over the Cardinals. Their offense looked very good. You know, 1 o'clock Kirk is keeping his 1 o'clock trends going. Coming in at number 4, I have the Cowboys. Cowboys just look very good offensively. You know, that running game with Tony Pollard looks really good, and it was without Ezekiel Elliott. You know, CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup is a great wide receiver duo. Dak is playing pretty solid so far since he's returned, even though a slow start against the Lions last week. And I think Micah Parsons is officially the best defensive player in the NFL right now. He is a game wrecker. Coming in at number 3, I got my Kansas City Chiefs, who had a bye week this week. They're fired up and ready to go. Then coming in at number 2, I have the Bills, who were able to get another big win over the Packers coming off of their bye week. And then coming in at number 1, I still have the Eagles. You know, Jalen Hurts really, his accuracy right now is at an all-time high. And A.J. Brown, wow. You know, when the trade first happened, you know, a lot of people I felt were overhyping it, saying that, you know, they were acting, it felt like people were acting as if A.J. Brown was like a top 5 receiver and was a guaranteed 1,500 yard receiving year this year. And I really just felt like, okay, where's all this hype coming from? Yeah, he's a good receiver and he's borderline top 10. Well, I was wrong, because this guy is playing like possibly a top 3 receiver in football. He had 3 touchdowns, could have been 4, had almost 200 yards receiving. Guy's a beast, and he's been doing this all year. That's one of the best connections in football right now, Hurts to Brown. Plus Devontae Smith. The offensive line's good. Defense is playing great. Going to be a tough team to stop. An injury to look out for, though, defensive tackle Jordan Davis got hurt. But other than that, the Eagles are looking very good. And other than that, I'm done with today's video. Today's the trade deadline. If a big move happens, I'll make a video on it. If little moves happen, I'll touch on it maybe in another video. So comment down below what you guys think about all this. And other than that, I'll see you guys next time.